I heard an article recently that in one of the southern states, someone was going to look into, I believe, gender affirmation therapy as child abuse.
Wait, say that again. Gender affirmation therapy. So that's where parents send their child to someone to figure out, am I a male or am I a female?
The opposite, actually. The child decides that they're not the physically assigned gender they were assigned at birth.
So the parents go to therapy?
So the kid goes to a therapist who helps that kid affirm that they are indeed not
No.
that male that they were assigned at birth or female they were assigned at birth.
That happens.
Yes, apparently so. Well, okay, so you're, an 8-year-old apparently, and have the ability to say, I feel much more like someone else than I feel like myself, and that's gained a lot of validity. Apparently, you can say that, and that has to be respected as truth. So
Keep
in that,
going.
yeah.
Okay.
So this 8-year-old says, you know what? For XYZ reason, I am not a male or I am not a female like I've been assigned by society or culture. I'm not. I'm simply not. So I'm going to reassign myself physically, and that's going to happen. And parents in this scenario, okay, well, I thought we had a son. I guess we have a daughter. It's funny that it could be so binary like that, but never mind. That's another story. So we don't have a son. We have a daughter.
Chris becomes Christina.
Piece of cake. Just got to, go get some help being sure of it. That's all. So a senator has decided that's really not a good idea. In fact, we have a bass backwards if that's how we're doing it.
Right.
In the words of my favorite episode in Letterkenny, what kind of backwards pageantry is this? And so anyway, the senator took up that point of view and decided that's not that. Not only is that poppycock, but it's abuse.
Yeah.
It's abuse. So I wanted to get someone else's thoughts on that, because surely I don't understand everyone's struggle. But to say, for someone else to say, whether it's you or me, you could say, hey, John, I feel more like you than myself. I wouldn't have any idea what you're talking about. I find it wild that people can say, I feel more like a person I've never been than I feel like myself. Personally, I think it's a reflection of if it were, say, someone with a similar mind, it would have to be a reflection of the culture's influence on me, which says a lot about how effective culture's influence can be. But there might be, people who are physiologically not what they appear. And I don't know a thing about it, but I can't imagine. And I wonder if you have maybe met some people who have described that feeling to you.
I have, and I also have some opinions about it. And so let me do this. Let me give you two sides of the cake from my perspective.
Okay.
When it comes to just, let's talk about an individual who, for whatever reason, believes that they are a dude who believes he's a woman.
Okay. So
the first slice of the pie, I'll start with probably how you see it, and how, what it sounds like you would say, hey, this is how we should go about things.
Well, for the record, I don't think anyone should tell anyone else how to go about doing anything, because I don't want anyone telling me how to go about doing stuff.
Perfect.
So
perfect.
There's that. Although I do think it's strange when people do things in their ways that are that much different than what I can understand. So with that in mind.
With that in mind. Yes. So the one side of it is, if someone's brain or mind is telling them something that they're clearly physically not, it would kind of make sense to focus the therapy and treatment and the fixing on the thing that's off, and that is the brain or the thoughts and the mind in the head, right? Because your body's not off. Your brain's off. Now, that's another $1 million question.
That is the $1 million question, because if it were that simple.
What? But
sure. Okay, go on, please. Yeah,
I'll
please.
give you the two
please.
stats. So you're right. So the first question is, what's off, my head or my body? Right?
Okay.
Now, out of head and body, which one changes 20 times a day and which one stays still? My body stays still, and my brain and thoughts change. In fact, we think an average of how many thoughts a day? I forget.
I'm not going to have any idea.
Lots of thoughts a day, right?
Yeah.
So if
Divide it by 2 for me.
There you go.
But still, it's still a lot.
Lots of thoughts. So if we have all these thoughts, right? And one of those thoughts is that my body looks different than what it should. Well, I have many thoughts that change over time and change throughout a given day, but my body stays still and is fixed and it's constant. So maybe, I'm just talking common sense right now, maybe we should focus on why am I having these thoughts? Why am I having these thoughts in my head? If I want to kill myself, why am I having these thoughts? Should I focus on destroying the concept of death? No. Why am I having these thoughts? Right?
I have often wondered how people arrive at suicide as a conclusion, because they'd have to have it as an option first.
Well, we'll get there in a second, but what I want to make sure that is, the first one is, let's focus on the thoughts. But here's the other slice of the pie.
Okay.
The other slice of the pie, and you said, and it's interesting, I too, for a long time was thinking, well, there's no other time in life where we honor an individual who wants to be something different, right? Until you start thinking about it. And in fact, I'll give you an example. You just said you don't understand how someone could want to be something that they never were. What
on the basis that they believe they're that other thing more than they are themselves.
Sure. What is weight loss?
Key element.
Weight loss. A 350-pound person internally feels and sees themselves visually as a skinny person. I need to be skinny. And in fact, they're not changing their thoughts to think they're not fat. They're changing their body to make it smaller. And so their body matches their thoughts. So if you think of weight loss, we don't tell fat people, stop thinking you're fat and start thinking positive, come to terms with who you are and what you look like. We tell fat people, lose weight to match your body with what you think you want to look like. So when I start thinking about different things in life, I started realizing there's some areas where we do match the body to the thoughts. There's other areas where we try and match the thoughts to the thing. So
yeah, sure. Okay,
I'm just presenting some areas here in life where,
let's dig through that one.
Yeah. So in
theory, anyone could be skinny or fat, right?
In what again?
In theory, hypothetically, anyone could be
Right.
skinny or fat.
Right.
And in fact, you even have to be skinny first. You have to get fat.
You have to get fat, right?
You can't start that way. You have to fatten up.
Skinny first.
That's it. You have to be skinny first. And the real question is, does that change who you are? So if that's the question, then maybe we don't need to think that hard about people changing their gender assignment, because
what do you mean,
maybe it doesn't really affect.
What do you mean, does that change who I am?
So if we accept the analogy that changing your body to fit your mind is all we're doing with gender reassignment, then we can go with I want to be skinnier or fatter or whatever, anything you like.
Well, but we have to be careful with what we mean here. I personally don't believe that, and I'm very careful here in not saying that here's a fact. I'm just saying I don't believe that by doing anything, altering my body in any physical way, that changes my gender whatsoever at all. They're unrelated. But we're specifically talking about an individual who has these thoughts about their body and whether or not they should try and conform their thoughts to the body they were given or change the body to match the thoughts they have on the daily. That's the question.
Well, I'll tell you what. I am a short guy.
Okay.
Compared to you anyway.
Okay.
You're like a foot taller than I am.
Am I?
No, you're not. That's an exaggeration.
Yeah.
But that doesn't that is an element of my body. It is not the essence of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So do we say that a person's gender is the essence of who they are?
A person's gender isn't the essence of who they are.
Or is it?
But it is part.
Because some changes are cosmetic. You can be skinny or fat, go back and forth.
Right.
In some ways, these are cosmetic, but they're health issues. Also, any human can do it. There are some things that divide men and women. If there weren't, then you wouldn't be able to reassign yourself to one. This is a full-on jump in the fence, or as much as technologically possible.
So you're saying that, yes, there's times where we match the body to the mind, but it's only with things that are changeable, where gender is not.
It sounds like that is the question of the hour. Because, okay, so let me ask you again. Is it possible for you, if there's a woman sitting over here, could you tell her with a straight face that you're sure that you're more of a woman than a man?
I personally can't, but I also don't wake up or live my life feeling those feelings.
Okay, so unfortunately, you and I will have to speculate.
Right? No. Wait. Let me ask you this.
I also don't.
Do you not believe that people in the world legit walk around feeling like they are trapped in the wrong body? I'm talking about thoughts, straight up thoughts.
Let's walk ourselves right out. Let's take the 30,000 foot view of that.
Okay.
How can you even? Let me reject the premise entirely.
Okay.
And say, how can you say that you're in the wrong body? How on earth? Like, what body are you supposed to be in?
No, not wrong body. Let me rephrase that. People say that they feel. Obviously, it's such
that's what I'm rejecting, not your phrasing of it, but the fact that a person can conceive of the idea that they don't belong in the body they are.
But that's just a way to make a point exciting. What they're really saying is, I feel like I am naturally connected and attached to my very feminine side, and therefore waking up as a male in terms of my body.
Okay.
Not my mind, that sort of feels like a disconnect for me between how I feel and how I think. You know how people say, if you speak two languages, people ask you?
They'd have to know
what do you mean?
What is supposed to be. There'd have to be a definition of masculinity and femininity. So these are cultural implications, not physical ones. So you'd have to buy off so hard on culture that you'd be willing to change your body to suit the culture.
You know how people, if you speak two languages, they say, hey, what language do you think in?
Uh-huh.
Right? So are we all part masculine, part feminine?
Let's go with I think one human and another human have a lot in common.
Do you think all humans have an aspect of both? Some more, some less of either or each?
Well, certainly we all have arms and legs, right?
Well, no, but by masculine and feminine, I mean traits.
Yeah, absolutely. So things that are classically masculine,
yes.
Things that are classically feminine.
We all have both.
Without defining that just loosely. Everyone has.
It's like a spectrum.
A Venn diagram even.
Perfect.
Spectrum, sure.
Perfect. So the way I think of it, I'm no expert. The way I think of it is the two languages I speak is that feminine and masculine, of which we all have. And some people, for instance, you could speak two languages, but think in one, think in both, think in another. So to me, a transgender and forget transgender, I'm talking about a person who has these thoughts and feelings. That would be someone who has the masculine and feminine like we all do. And rather than only think in one, they either think in both or in the other. And they feel like my body is one language, my mind is another, and that disconnect drives them nuts. I'm assuming other people might have that, and this disconnect drives them less nuts, I think, maybe.
Sure. Well, there's an area of the brain, I think it's the anterior cruciate cingulate. I think so.
Totally know what part you're talking about.
Right. It's the part that monitors inconsistency. Well, if I didn't name it, let me not name it because I'm no kind of neuroscientist.
You could probably say any name you want.
Yeah.
And people will be like,
right?
He is so smart.
Well, I know that is a part of the brain. Okay. Well, there is a part of the brain that monitors for inconsistency.
Okay.
It really stresses you out when you find one, internally or externally. Your ACC, I think it's the ACC, fires like crazy when you see a discrepancy, something that shouldn't be, something that isn't, something that's off.
Right.
And if it can drive you mad and drive you to change something. So you reach for whatever tool is in your kit. And so, I guess that's how people arrive at it. Their brain just can't take it anymore, and they arrive in a certain place and take a certain action. I mean, everyone's driven to an action at some stage.
Yeah.
All right. So we have probably explored that as much as we can without say people here to share their perspective. We're
Right.
just speculating.
Because we both don't share those feelings.
Right.
Right.
So leaving that kind of where it is, how do we, as a society, we all have to participate in this. How do we measure where to put those sentiments with equality and equity?
Perfect. So the first thing we need to establish is in which ways is an individual who we just described, in which ways do them or anything to do with them and their thoughts and feelings, in which ways does all that spill into your life as John? That's the first question. And the first thing I'll say, any way that doesn't directly spill, and keyword directly, because we could sit here and we could find linkages if we tried hard enough between anything and our life. Somehow it has to do, but directly, meaning it directly has to do with your day-to-day life. If it doesn't directly have to do with you, I think it's none of our business personally. Just like on the flip side, anything that I don't affect anyone else directly, I wish for them to not be any of their business.
This is well, I'm not sure this counts or doesn't count, but I think athletics, for example, I think it'll count because I was somehow professionally in athletics.
Exactly. Athletics, whether you're the athlete or consuming the sport on your TV, spills into your life directly. I agree 100%.